Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Guadalcanal, the battle for Henderson Field, 1942 to 1943. This is a game designed by Michael Nagel and published by War Diary magazine. This is going to be familiar to a lot of people because the game Guadalcanal that came out in 1966 is the basis for this game. It has been changed somewhat. They've updated the rules, they've streamlined it. No longer are there basic and advanced rules. There have been some additions, some other changes to the game to make it a brand new presentation. So I was really excited to get this in the mail, and I will be sharing my views on the game in a future video in a review. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. Guadalcanal, the small island in the Solomons where U.S. forces launched the first American offensive against Japan in the Pacific. The campaign that followed was bitterly fought with heavy casualties incurred by both sides. The prize was Henderson Field, an airstrip from which American forces hoped to launch future airstrikes against Japanese-held territory. Guadalcanal, where legends were made. Refight this classic battle in this homage to the classic Avalon Hill game title. And we have contents: 352 counters, 2 19 by 27 inch map sheets, a 16-page rulebook, 2 player aid cards, 9 special event cards, and 1 die. It is rated as a moderate complexity, and up the top here we can see an example of the map and the counters. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. All right, we have our 1d6, our cards. Nice little flyer here for War Diary magazine, which if you're not subscribed to it already, I strongly recommend you do. And there will be a video here pretty soon about War Diary 21. You may actually see that before this video comes out, but look forward to that here pretty soon. The rulebook, the player aids and reinforcement sheet, the counters, and our map. So let's set up the map and take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the map that comes with the game. It is a long, thin map, just like you'd see in North Africa. It's going to be the same here for the northern portion of Guadalcanal. Beautifully done map. I mean, you can really see each of the terrain pieces very distinctly, so it's not going to be any difficulty in understanding what type of terrain you're on, whether you're traveling across or fighting it. It looks like it's going to be very easy to understand. Along the top, we have all the turn tracks. We have all the tables we'll need. We have the revolve reinforcements, the artillery fire results table, artillery replenishment results table, naval bombardment table below that, then the attrition table, the turn artillery, supply HF ops, and the victory points tracks all along the top. And then we have the random event card pile here, right in iron bottom sound, so really easy to see what everything is on the map. The only thing I noticed when I looked at this map before I started the video, and I've already passed this on to Roy Matheson at War Diary, is the hexes themselves are a little light. They need to be darker, and it's a little difficult to read the hex numbers. So maybe they can change it out to either black, or they can bold it to make it darker, easier to read, because there's not enough contrast here, believe it or not, in the jungle areas and stuff like that, the terrain itself, because the font used looks like it's a little thin and white, but that's not something that's going to be a deal breaker, because this is print on demand. So it should be easier for them to make those adjustments, and hopefully they will be able to do so. If they do, this is going to be a perfect map. This is a really nicely done map, and just a couple little tweaks and it's going to be perfect. Next, we'll take a look at the player aids that come with the game. We have the optional reinforcement setup chart. On the next sheet, we have the attrition table along with the terrain effects chart at the bottom, listing out all the different types of terrain with a graphical example, the movement point cost, and then any effects upon combat, and any notes below that for each piece of terrain. On the reverse side, we have the naval bombardment table, artillery replenishment results table, the artillery fire results table, and then the Japanese victory points along the bottom left, and the sequence of play along the bottom right. Next, we'll take a look at a few examples of the event cards that come with the game. There are 9 random event cards, and on each we have both a US and a Japanese event. Let's say the Japanese player drew this card here, not my problem. No event occurs for the Japanese. Draw again and apply the US event. So we draw this one, all is well. No event occurs this turn. Any previously drawn event effect is canceled reshuffle the event deck. So in this instance, if there was a good event for the US, this card would effectively cancel it. So that adds that randomness, that chaos, that friction to the combat. Maybe you drew this one instead. We're on our own. U.S. naval trouble delays any reinforcements arriving this turn until next turn. So again, the Japanese get a benefit there because now U.S. reinforcements are delayed one more turn. So sometimes it's going to go for you, sometimes it's going to go against you. I like introducing that randomness to the game through cards. Next, we'll take a look at the counter sheets that come with the game. On the first sheet, we have Japanese forces, and then we have a few administrative markers along the right-hand side and the bottom. You'll notice two numbers at the bottom of the counter. On the left-hand side, that is the combat factor. The number on the right-hand side is the movement factor. Some of these units, and they're all artillery, have a superscript number. That is the range at which they can reach out and touch the enemy. On the next sheet, we have the balance of the Japanese forces. On the next sheet, we have the U.S. forces. And those finish out on the fourth and final counter sheet. Next, we'll take a look at the rules. This is a 16-page full-color rulebook. On the inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the rules and their associated page numbers. Get started with the introduction. Then we get into the components, how to read the different pieces of terrain on the map, how to understand the counters and the different types of units that are in the game. Then we get to prepare for play on page 5. And then the sequence of play is broken down for you all through all the steps. You can easily read here and understand what all of them are. Random events, reinforcements, movement. We have an illustrated example for movement. Another illustrated example for stealth. And this is something that's pretty cool. Stealth movement. When selected for movement, a Japanese infantry unit in a jungle hex that is not adjacent to an enemy may employ stealth movement to hide its location. A unit under stealth may not be attacked in any way. So that's pretty cool, which is one of the things that happened with these island fights. Japanese knew the island real well, and they were able to get in and try to infiltrate the Marine lines, and it led to some pretty brutal hand-to-hand combat. Now we get into combat here on page 10. We have an illustrated example for the artillery combat. We have artillery fire, artillery supply, range, line of sight, different levels, same level, adjacent, and then we get to the artillery fire resolution. And of course, the star of the show, Henderson Field. Henderson Field reduction, naval bombardment, counter battery fire, assault combat, assault process. A couple of notes here in red at the bottom for you to pay attention to when reading the rules. Attack strength, defense strength, combat ratios, and then resolving combat. And a few text examples in here to explain and reiterate what the rules are. Follow-up combat, straining, artillery and assault, multi-hex attack. We have an illustrated combat example here. We have optional assault, Henderson Field reduction, bonsai attacks, and then attacking stealth units. Then we get to victory on page 14. So you can see not a really long rule book. We didn't get into the sequence of play until page 5, and we're already completed here pretty much up to victory here on page 14. So about 10 pages of rules or so. Then we have the designer's notes on the next page. So yeah, about 10 pages of rules. Not going to be a hard game to grok and get on the table, which is great. As I said, victory, we have the Japanese victory points and then the U.S. victory points, the Rabaul reinforcements, guerrilla activities, and then turn end, and then we have the designer's notes on page 15, and those carry over to the back of the rule book. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Guadalcanal, the battle for Henderson Field, 1942 to 1943. This is a game designed by Mike Nagel and published by War Diary magazine. Well, it's great to see War Diary continuing on with these games. They had published a few in the past when they were working in conjunction with Lock and Load. Now they're working with another partner, I'm not sure who, but they've not abandoned putting out games, and it's great to see. Guadalcanal, an original classic from 1966, Avalon Hill. It's been updated, it's been reworked, and now we have this latest version here from Mike Nagel and War Diary magazine. Really love the look of the map. The graphics are fantastic. Like I had mentioned, the only thing that needs to be tweaked would be the borders of the hexes need to be more easy to read when it comes to having some contrast on the map. The same with the hex numbers, which are really critical for setups and things like that. So you want to know those hex numbers. The random event cards that add some friction, some chaos to combat, and I think that's pretty cool. You'll have events for both the Japanese and the Americans on the same card. There are 9 cards, so you're going to have a decent little selection of random things that are going to happen. Not where you're going to be playing them all the time, but it's going to have an effect on combat, which I think is really cool because that increases the replayability quite a bit when you have that random factor that can be introduced into the game. But production-wise, fantastic. Really looking forward to getting this one on the table. It's Guadalcanal, it's the Marines. I'm obligated. I got to check it out, and I'm definitely going to be taking a look at it here pretty soon. And like I said before, War Diary is a fantastic magazine. If you've not already subscribed to it, I strongly recommend you check it out. They're now doing a PDF, a digital PDF download, so you don't have to get the print magazine if you don't want to. If you prefer digital, they're doing digital. So they've got both print and digital. Nice flexibility for the customer, which I think is pretty awesome. But looking forward to getting this one on the table, checking it out, and then doing a follow-on video to share my views on the game afterwards. So look forward to that in the future. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.